Welcome to a new episode of Growth Stories, the minicast where we get to the bottom of the best on-chain growth insights. I am Kryptena, your co-host, and today I'm joined by Ashton Barger, Partnerships Manager at Onchain Foundation and someone who's been in the Web3 space since 2018. Ashton, it's great to have you here today.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to join. I've enjoyed listening to these growth casts so far, and really excited to be part of it and hopefully share some of the stories and insights that I've gained so far.
Well, we can start with that. So
Yeah.
Can you talk us briefly through your Web3 journey?
I met a guy named Harry Horsfall, who's the co-founder and CEO of what was Zebu Digital is now Flight 3. It's a Web3 marketing agency, and also through that got my first, I guess, full-time role in the space. But then after being an account manager, I dove into what was DeFi Live, now Zebu Live, which a lot of people, especially in the UK space, would know. I know you've been there yourself a few times. And yeah, exactly. So it was very much an idea that we had back in 2021. And then, over 3 years, scaled to the biggest UK Web3 conference, and now it's over 3,000 people. And initially it was like 500 people that we just got together in a room and, kind of made it happen. And now it's this really big thing that continues to happen annually. So I did that, and I learned a lot through that. I left the company earlier this year to explore kind of other initiatives and other interests that I had. Joined another company. And then I would say through a pivot, eventually actually found my way to Onchain.
It's really exciting, and Onchain is quite a new brand. Mm-hmm. So what's the plan of attack for growth, both in the near term and in the long term?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to tackle this challenge at the moment, right? Because I think what we've seen in the Web3 space a lot is people don't focus on organic growth and user growth. They focus a lot on the hype and token price growth and maybe some unorganic ways of doing that. And I think we've seen a lot of unsustainability in terms of projects launching and dying very quickly, or not being continued, or rugging or whatever, all these different things in the industry that has kind of gave it a bad name. But I think there's a shift now to more of an organic approach. I think that's really what Onchain is focused on, and that's what really interested me from the beginning, is why I wanted to join. And they're really focused on a specific Web3 founder market that needs these tools, these insights, these reports, dashboards that will actually help them to decide what to do in the Web3 space, whether they should get into it, whether they should scale it in this way or that way, how to help their business model. And so we're understanding our audience more and more. So we're really doing a deep dive now into kind of some surveys, some data collection as to who our audience really is, and then how do we cater to them the best. What kind of content are we missing? What tools will they need? What can we build to help them out establish themselves and reach their goals, right?
So you mentioned that now you're kind of in the researching phase of your audience and so on. From all the data and insights you've collected so far, what's the most surprising one?
Sure. Great question. We've done some surveys on, for example, like the NFTs side, because you could just launch another PFP, but at the moment it's like PFPs are kind of dead, right? So we don't want to just launch a PFP. Obviously, we want to do something a lot more than that. We're looking to do more of a membership program and kind of an exclusive club in a way. Within our website and within our products. So, some of the insights we saw is like, people are still interested in potentially buying them. And granted, this is maybe a somewhat biased survey of kind of like the NFT crowd, but also people that aren't in NFTs as well. So it's pretty interesting to see that people are still interested to potentially buy things, but I think they just haven't seen the value of these NFTs being realized, right? So we're trying to kind of turn that around and say, don't think about it just being an NFT, think about it more as a membership, but think about it as something that will continue to provide more and more value as the years go on. And hopefully we deliver a product that they can utilize and access from the beginning of their, journey, right? Once they get the NFT membership, here's this thing that you can now access and get insights from and intelligence from. So that's kind of the goal, is delivering on value from day one and not promising them months, years down the line that they'll get access to something, right? So I think that's where we're trying to change the game there, I would say, in a way.
Makes sense. And on the event side, so with Zibu Live, you mentioned you helped scale the event from like 500 to over 3,000 attendees in 3 years only. What was the winning framework, let's say, for a successful Web3 event?
I would say Web3 events, especially these days, are quite difficult because there are new events popping up all the time in different geographies and different niches and different categories. And I think where the Zebu Live and especially the Flight 3 team as well really stands out is one, like the kind of the branding and the focus of the event. I think it stands out as something that really is trying to, in a way, like help the target audience, right? Because we want these people to network, to connect, to have fun, to enjoy understanding and learning more about the Web3 space, finding those connections, finding those potential founders. So I think we've kind of honed in on that aspect of it and really focused on providing those people with a good experience, giving them the networking areas, giving them, all the needs that they have from like the food and the drinks and, the spaces that they're able to interact in, the side events, the whole London Web3 week experience. And I think the way to do that was to actually learn from our audience every time, right? Because we did a lot of, feedback and surveys, and we talked to our sponsors after the event. We talked to our attendees after the event, and we got to know more about like what were their pain points, what were they missing, and so that's why we kind of like upgraded our venue in the third year. We knew it was time to move on and have a bigger space that had more opportunity. And better access to lots of different things that attendees needed, and then really leveling up our creativity, our interactiveness in the events, our fun that was happening, the quality of our side events and experiences, and building partnerships. Right, building partnerships is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. Right, because these past 2 years, Coinbase has been a really big sponsor of the event, and it took quite a bit of time to get there. Right, it took a lot of other sponsors saying good things about us. It took us following up and providing them with the right kind of approach and understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it and all of that. And I think once you get to the level of working with those types of partners, other people just want to be alongside them and want to be learning from them and hearing from them. So I think really just focusing on like leveling up the game and doing things right according to our audience, our partners, and the people that want to be there.
Definitely a great case study for event growth. How do you know that the event was successful? Are there any metrics or anything that you keep track of?
Definitely, there's a few. Of course, it's like the amount of people that registered versus the amount of people that actually went there is one metric, right? So you have obviously a certain amount of ticket registrations, but then are people actually going to get there and come on the day? And is it going to look full? Is it going to look empty, right? Because you have a lot of these events that are promising thousands and thousands of attendees, but then there's like empty seats everywhere, rooms that are, no one's in, and, kind of like a ghost town in some ways, right? So we didn't want to do that, right? So we kept kind of somewhat tight spaces that would be really impactful. So our stages weren't super big. So you could pretty much see that the stages were full, throughout the majority of the event, and it felt more immersive. It felt more engaging. And we heard that from attendees, live at the event, of course. But then afterwards in the feedback forms, you start to see some of those metrics like, yes, they really did enjoy the talks. And then the amount of return sponsors, return partners, people that'll come back and go again. You can always kind of measure that as a success factor as well, because, you could have lots of sponsors that just next year they're not happy and they don't want to come back, right? So we're trying to get more of those. The team is trying to get more of those return sponsors. I'm more of an advisor now, right? I'm fully working with the company, on a regular basis. But yeah, it's super interesting to see what you can kind of track and work on.
So you've also been, involved in this across different cycles. How should teams adjust their event strategies in bull versus bear markets?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think as a company, especially with a limited budget, right, there's only so much that you can spend at an event or on a marketing activation. And sometimes you have to really balance going to one place versus another place, and spending on a big booth versus doing a side event. And I think a lot of these decisions have to come based on who is the target audience, right? I keep talking about target audience because it is super important, right? Because you can spend so much money, so much time, so much effort going to these places, doing these activities with little to no results, right? So I think it's about understanding where the people that you really want to connect with are, and in high quantity and high density, I would say. So, for example, DevCon right now, I've heard there's like tons and tons of builders, and some of the marketers are like, I wish there were more marketers, right? But it's like, okay, but you should have expected, it's a developer conference, so there's a lot of developers, of course. So some of those companies, like, they need to be there because that's where they're going to get, attraction from their ideal crowd, because there's tons of them in one place. Now, with DevCon, obviously, it's hard to stand out, of course. So you have to be very specific if you're doing a side event, right? This is a side event for these types of people, right? This is an investor brunch. We're bringing investors together, right? They know going in that, like, this is kind of what to expect. This is what they're going to do. And just like trying to avoid the fluff, like, we're doing crypto and cocktails. It's like, there's 100 of those. I don't know whether I should really go to that. So I think it's like being really focused with the activation that you do, and making sure that the people you really want to be there know that that's happening, and that they should be there, and that that's going to be beneficial for them. And then tracking. I think you need to follow up. You need to track your follow-ups. You need to have a place or a sheet where you're putting all of these down, right? We had 50 contacts, and we followed up with all of them, and then we got 20 leads, and then they converted into 5 deals, for example. So having those metrics, having those things trackable, will be helpful to understand how impactful that event is. And then when the next one comes around, make sure that you're there, or you're changing your strategy, or doing a different event because of that, because of those learnings. And in the bull market, people are going to want to spend a lot more money, right? But you have to think, the bear is going to come, right? So you have to still keep that in mind, and make enough revenue and enough impact in the bull market that will sustain you through the bear market, right? So don't go and spend all of your budget, save some for the times when things don't go according to plan, or, the market shifts, or, you need to reallocate your budget somewhere else, right, to fix a problem, for example. So I think companies need to definitely keep that in mind. And, during the bear market, like, the right people are there. I think it's really great to see people that are actually still in the space and still building things. And usually those are some of the best people to meet, and be around. So, don't avoid going to events just because it's a bear market, because some events, are still great and still have that really good audience to be in. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, I mean, if people show up to events in the bear market, they're serious.
Yeah, exactly.
With your focus on partnerships, what would you say is your process for identifying and evaluating strategic partners?
It's kind of my focus now, right? Is working with the right people instead of, everyone, because I think in the past, uh, we've seen a lot of partnerships that are kind of just, they're a lot of fluff. They're a lot of like, yeah, we're just announcing a partnership. Like, what is it? Yeah, we're just like promoting each other's stuff. And it's like, well, I don't know how impactful that really is, So a lot of time and thought and, back and forth goes into some of these deals. And I think, where I'm at right now is, I'm really putting down who are our top partners that we want to be next to, that we want to have to sponsor, or we want to have to, be a thought leader in our content, and how do we reach them? Some people I'm already like connected to, so that's an easy way in. I can start some conversations there, and kind of see, based on that type of partner, like what they're looking for, what, how we can help them best, and then kind of give them the best package, and give them the best, template to help us out, help them out, and ideally, create value on both sides, right, and make everyone happy. Because a lot of times you can just get in the habit of like, yeah, let's schedule a call, let's talk about this, let's do this, and you create this huge, inflow of potential partners. But at the end of the day, you have to close that deal, and you have to make impact with that deal. So try not to like overload your list, because then it's gonna be so hard to focus on who's actually important, who's actually going to make a difference, and drive revenue, or drive your goals forward.
Well, it's time for our rapid fire round. So,
Nice.
Ashton, quick answers only. One thing every Web3 event needs but must forget.
Good branding. Yeah, definitely. It helps stand out, and yeah, if you look good, that helps people feel good about it too, right? It's a lot of people overlook it for sure, but good branding and design principles super important.
Agreed. Red flag in a potential partnership.
People stop responding to you for 2-3+ weeks. I think after the second week mark, it's clear that they're probably not still out of office or still traveling, and it's clear that they're not prioritizing your partnership. And I think you have to keep a consistent level of communication to keep things moving forward. So yeah, big red flag when I start to see that this falling through the cracks, right?
True. Best organized Web3 event you've attended so far?
Can I say Zebu Live?
Okay, Zebu Live and then the second best.
Let's go. Even though it's all over the place, I love East Denver. I mean, I think it's like it's a crazy event. There's a lot happening, but the team does a really good job to continue to grow and continue to stand out.
Yeah, where can people reach out to you?
So I'm at Cashton_ETH on Twitter, but definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, just Ashton Barger, obviously. And yeah, that's my best channel, so I would say.
Amazing. And that wraps up another episode of Growth Stories. If you enjoyed these insights, make sure to subscribe and collect this episode on Post.media.